Right, well, a fortnight ago, we got underway with our official broadcasting for the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. A couple of weeks ago, it was the Garden of England, Brands Hatch. This time, it's the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone, for the international circuit. And my name's Alex Goldschmidt, and I'm pleased to finally get the chance to work with this guy, Mr. Chaz Draycott. Good evening, sir. How are we?
Good evening, Mr. Goldschmidt. Very well, thank you. Very well indeed. Really looking forward to this one. I actually made I didn't make my debut here last in this championship, and I can tell you this is a real fun circuit to drive. The international layout at Silverstone, not one that you see used too often in a lot of series, but honestly, that's just a little bit sharper at either end. It's not a long lap. There's a lot of slipstreaming to be done, and it is going to be a hell of a lot of fun this evening. Really looking forward to this, and it's great to be here up in the box. I mean, as mentioned just beforehand, I'm probably going to score more points in the championship from up here than I would do behind the wheel.
Yes, I'm sure that Ben Willis from a couple heading into the next round in a couple of weeks' time, but just over 1.85 miles, just under 3 kilometres this circuit. I think if memory serves me correctly, this is where Richard Hammond drove a Formula 1, if memory serves me correctly, a few years ago, but as you can see there, we're in Northamptonshire. There have been quite a few grid drops given. I think Aidan Millward's got the best one of the season. I think he's going to be starting in Cambridgeshire for the first race later on this evening. Daniel Hyde has also got a 20-place grid drop. But that's part and parcel of Tin Top Racing, isn't it, Chaz?
Yeah, that's it. I'm quite sort of admirable of the persistence of drivers in the championship and in this series, because you get a big mix of winners and a big mix of results each time. The reverse grids keep it interesting, success ballast as well, and tyre options. There's a lot of varies when you consider that over the weekend, obviously, I was covering the 24 Hours of Spa, the SRO Esports event, and we were talking about variables there. You know, you've got the pace of all the different drivers, you've got the conditions, you've got the different cars themselves. You have those variables here as well, but this is a sprint racing series, not an endurance racing series. So it's really exciting to have all that thrown into racing that's already frantic.
Indeed, and with regards to the amount of laps that we're going to be having, each of the 3 races this evening will be 18 laps in duration. There's been an interesting set of developments at the top of the leaderboards. At the moment, Chris Butcher, the reigning and defending champion, leads the way on 102 points. And a very well-known person to you and I in the virtual commentary box, Lewis McGlade, rounds out the top 2. Followed by Dan Kell, both from Sancho Simsport. Ben Willis, last season's independent champion, is Churgwin. Jack Nichols, not with us this evening. He is at the doubleheader for the Berlin E-Prix for Season 7 finale of the FIA ABB Formula E Championship this week. So he will find that he will drop a little bit down the order, but you've got the brothers Mitchell, Luke ahead of Scott in the standings, with Phil Morby and Chris Shepherd rounding out the top 10 positions. Sancho Simsport, in the meantime, are leading the standings in the team's title, 150 points to THR's 147. But qualifying is very much underway. Dry conditions, which is always a plus here at Silverstone, Chaz. And time's already coming on a 1 minute 5.067. Nearly a tenth and a half quicker than Toby Davis, then it's Scott Mitchell. Chris Butcher. Now, Chris Butcher comes in with the maximum amount of championship leader. You get hit with 75 kilos. And I think his THR Astra might be a little bit of a handful here tonight.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I think really that's going to wake everyone up here, because Luke has sort of come into this and wasn't expecting to be right at the top of the standings at any point, I don't think, but judged on his not last week, sorry, 2 weeks ago, I found myself around him a lot on track, and it was certainly exciting to be around. So to see him at the top isn't too much of a surprise to us. Butcher's still up there at the moment. There's Callum Wilson in the beautiful Wilson Racing BMW. Looking very tasty indeed, in the very dark red colours. You can see they chuck these BMW, but it's really quite planted mid-corner, as much as that seems daft to say after watching it drift through there. But once it does get a little bit sideways, it's very manageable, is that car. It's not like it will end out, which usually is the characteristics of a rear-wheel drive car.
Especially as, again, Callum Wilson stepping the back end out sideways to the left. I mean, I drove the car at the new facility for Simply Race, really enjoyed it. And yeah, the back end does like to get a little bit playful on the BMW. You know, you get into that really nice sort of ebb and flow of knowing how hard you can push the car, as Callum Wilson goes P7 on a 1 minute 5.348. Leading the way, there is Chris Butcher, the number 1, also the reigning and defending champion, 3 1,000ths between him and Toby Davies, and there's Lewis McGlade coming into shot with his head. I think really having the F20 BMW, the current car based on physics, actually approved by 4-time British Touring Car Champion, the man himself, Mr. Colin Turkington. It's really good to see that for season 230, which replaces the 125 IM Sport, is a welcome addition to the grid, isn't it?
Definitely, it's a very mean and very purposeful looking car. I was very in the flesh last week. Actually, I was at Oulton Park for the British Touring Car Championship, and it was just lovely to see it in person. I got very up close with Stephen Jelly's car. We all went on a bit of a track walk and went through the pit lane. It's such a well sculpted car. Like all of the airflow that will go down these sides of this car. Obviously, these things aren't the most detailed. They're not like a sort of formula car or anything open wheel or even a prototype, but the way that they've managed the airflow over that car is really, really clever. You can just see it in the way that the bodywork flows. From over here, where we're watching Cameron Brewster, it doesn't look too far apart from the normal road car. These BMWs have got beefier and beefier over time with wider arches. They're getting lower and lower and so on. It does look like, it's one of the things that we love about touring car racing. They really do just look like the road cars, just with the odd small modification. But you look at some of the Civic, I think it was the FK2 shape Civic, it was very far apart from the road car, but now I think they're getting a little bit closer to that, and it's what makes it all relatable.
Chassis, well, there is one of the FK2s, Ryan Elliott, who actually picked up a 20-second penalty for race 3 last time out at Brands Hatch. Now, we have the use of the option tyres, which at Silverstone International will be the hard tyres. 13 drivers. There were 14 when Chaz was due to take to the grid, but he's just, and it's good to have you alongside me, mate. Ryan Elliott was very quick at Brands Hatch Indy a couple of weeks ago, and he's gone purple in Sector 2. He's not too far off the bubble, really. Toby Davies, who has got provisional pole with just under 6 minutes to go, but he's looked rather rapid at Brands, and there we go, provisional pole, 1 minute 4.931, so 43 thousandths. Chaz cover the top 3.
Close indeed. Lovely lap there by Ryan Elliott. You could stream from his teammate for just a moment there, Chris Shepherd, giving him all the help that he needed down the humongous Hanger Straight. They don't quite have as much speed coming out of there as you would if you were coming through Maggots and Beckett's. A lot of pace down there. We look here at Michael Tyler for E-Team Brit Blue. Lovely looking Ford Focus RS. Coming into the final couple of corners now. They sort of vary from lap to lap how they respond on the brakes. They're very, very focused into drive, because sometimes when you've got the front tyres in the... Oh, excuse me. Somebody... Was that one of the Zancho cars? I think it might have been McGlade.
I think that might have been a bit too much curb hungriness from Lewis McGlade there, and I think he might have had a bit of a flying lesson like somebody did at Brands Hatch a couple, which I think was Phil Morby, if memory serves me correctly. But yeah, like you were saying about front-wheel drives, that it's all about the turning, it's all about sort of through the corner, but pushing too hard like we saw with the Zancho car just then, that's pushing on the other side of the limits of adhesion.
Yes. Yeah, that's sort of trying to lift as much adhesion as you can off the ground and try and take it with you, which, let's face it, doesn't work. But we've seen these cars roll over before. We know that they are a little bit prone to it, so the drivers just need to be very careful about that. Of course, Donington Park, well known for that final chicane. We've got people that are going to be really careful at Knockhill as well. But we saw last season that the Mercedes was the car that really used to roll over very easily, like ridiculously easily. But that car not actually represented. We've got the MGs, of course, the Fords, the Vauxhalls, BMWs. We've got some of the Hondas as well, and we've even got some Subarus in the field. John Wooldridge, James Lyke and Scott Sovic, boy, as we're going to call it, the estate. Fantastic to see that the Subaru is still represented there. Obviously not seeing it anymore in the real world, in the British Touring Car Championship, as it kicks off at the final corner. I think that was a qualifying session. But it's nice that with the beauty of sim racing, we can still use cars that get phased out in the real world, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, with a lot of cars that get used in other championships, the Endurance Trophy, we do see a lot of TCR cars populate that. Some of the old touring cars have gone to, like, say, Maximum Motorsports with Touring Car Trophy and TCR UK, amongst others. There's James Lambert from E-Team Brit White. Now, there have been a couple of changes on the grid as was actually withdrawn and has been replaced. Now I'm just trying to find if now that's Bobby Vakunov in the number, I think, just trying to one. Also running in the Honda FK2. James Lambert rounds out the top 19 for E-Team Brit White. Now there has been a change in terms of the... I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head, but I know that Max Spooner has changed. He's now actually moved to E-Team Brit Blue, so would have been, but because of the spring for his paddle shift system not arriving in time, he's had to withdraw. So another driver on the sidelines. No Ross McGregor this evening, so yeah, it's going to be rather interesting. BMW's intermingling there, going down the Hanger Straight. We've got just over a minute and 40 left to go. Toby Davis, in the meantime, is the first driver to go in 04s, 104.846. But still, nevertheless, there, Chaz, to see the top 5 covered by just a fraction under 3.5 10 15, rounded out by Phil Morby in the number 14. That's even just as close as well, at 0.87 separating the top 15 heading into the first round.
Things about having a really short track to race on. It's like when you see the British Touring Car Championship at Silverstone National, you get almost 30 cars separated by less than a second. See that here tonight as well. Now the racecraft is going to be a completely different story. You're going to see a lot of people either trying to set up moves into turn 2 or on the exit of this, well, I say the exit as we get to Stowe, down here where the camera is placed. We look at Dan Hyde at the moment, who I must give a shout out to and a big thanks to for helping diagnose a number of my internet issues across sim racing broadcasts for broadcasts that didn't get completed. But Dan's been an absolute star at helping me out with that. He had a bit of a rough ride at Brown. Let's face it, it was certainly an argy-bargy night of racing, but Dan's back out, ready to push on and hopefully get some strong results for Caden Casual Apex tonight. And he's decided that that's the end of his lap and he's going back to the pits.
Yeah, glancing the wall, I would say there, Mr. Draycott. But there's James Like from Revolution Sim Racing GT. Locks up the brakes. One of the 11s is showing up there, courtesy of the left front, but checkered flag is out. Some drivers still on Like now will come down the main straightaway and go across the line. And remains in 20th. Well, it looks like. He's. And some of the drivers coming through now, through the through Vale, well, through Club, as bit of a sideway on that particular occasion. The number 22 from Kings Racing, the sole Vauxhall from that team, as Jack Nicholls on commentary duty for Formula E this weekend. He comes across the line, looks to be 15th for the Honda. But Toby Davis with a pretty good lap, 1 minute 4.846. 3 drivers and Chris Butcher all making it under the 1 minute 5 second barrier. A good effort from Scott Mitchell to get his best lap and pit younger brother Luke. So they ran out a pretty close qualifying session, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, and that's what we can expect from this sort of circuit. It's great to have. I must say as well, by the way, the Kings Racing and Kings Dealer Racing liveries, I absolutely love those. Absolutely love those. If you just bear with us there, everybody, we've just been given to another stream, so just hang fire 1 second and we will be back with you when we can be. Thank you for your patience there, everybody. Much appreciated. Sorry about that. We're just making sure that all of the streaming settings and everything were correct. Mike Yao doing a wonderful job as ever. I was just very quickly going to touch on the liveries for the King's Racing and King's Dealers Racing cars. Now, they're all homages to older British touring cars. The liveries they ran last season were, I believe, in homage to the 1996 or even 95 Lagunas, and there was even an ex-Chris Hoy liveried car in there, which was... sorry, not Chris Hoy, Will Hoy, apologies, the wrong Hoy.
Yeah.
Which was the Arena International car, I believe it was, which was silver and black. This year, or this season, well, it is this year, isn't it? Luke Mitchell's actually running a car that is very similar to the old Nissan Primeras of 1998 and 1999. And then you've got Ed Straw in the Egg Sport Astra from 2001. They've got some cracking liveries. But Ed Sport, that's one of the best meme liveries of the season. That, if not the...
you know what? We need to give Paul O'Neill a shout out about that, because I'm sure he'd love that. He'll go like, "That's absolutely mint." Because Paul was, back in the day when he was running in the Vauxhall Astra Coupes, when you had the likes of Ivan Miller and Matt Neal in the same stable, going for the title back in the day. I mean, it was one of the, for me, it was one of those cars that I just thought, oh, something quite different. It's not exactly a hatchback or, but yeah, like you say, with the old Primeras, I still remember the days of the late David Leslie roaring around and having goes at John Bintcliffe for punting him off again on a regular basis. I think one of the other things was last season we had Karan Chandok as a guest driver on the odd occasion, and he rocked up in a sort of a tribute to the early 1990s of the Canon Williams FW14 too. So we had that on a Mercedes, which was quite an interesting kettle of fish, if I'm completely honest. But yeah, some of the liveries that we got. Even having Haas F1 sort of in a way mentioned on the liveries on the BMWs. So there's a lot of wonderful, there's a cornucopia of colourful cars here in VMO this season, Chaz.
Indeed. The livery that Ryan Elliott and Chris Shepherd are running leaves little to the imagination, to be honest. But it's certainly nice to see all of the very brightly coloured cars. I put a lot of effort into making sure my Zancho Simsport livery that Matt Richards had done for the Civic, and of course we have the Zancho Simsport trio of Ford Focuses, Dan Kell, Lewis McGlade and Ross McGregor. The Caden Casual Apex cars are nice as well. I really like the blue on there. It's a very bold livery. We also have, of course, our very own Aidan Millward in the series, and that car with its beautiful sort of sheen, very, very lovely sheen on it, the white and green bit. Well, it's sort of quite metallic, isn't it? Ed Straw says the livery's based off the Andy Prio one-off appearance in the Egg Sport in 2001, because he's from Guernsey. I love that, Ed. Absolutely love that. That's really cool. I remember Phil Bennett drove that car in 2001, and yes. I didn't realise until I watched back the season review again, but mate, he was a liability. Like, what was he even doing all season? He just, if he didn't crash, it's like he had a bad day. But there is your lineup of drivers and teams, albeit slightly updated since then, but still, you can see that there's a really good spread of talent in this field, to be fair, Alex. All names that we've seen in touring cars and R-Factor before. And to be honest, if you had to pick a winner, it'd be very, very difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that Chris Butcher is the one with the target on his back, ever since we had him. And then it was also Smile Power Racing was around last season. So we had also had, not just with Chris Butcher, but Scott Sovic was running alongside him as well. We did have a few substitutions, I think, during the course of the season. But Chris Butcher, he's going to be running with the maximum amount of ballast, 75 kilos. So, you know what we're going to do, whilst we're waiting to get race 1 of round 3 underway, we're going to go to a brief commercial break. We'll be back in a couple of moments' time. Welcome back to Silverstone International for round 3 out of 10 for the 2021 VMO Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Alex Goldschmidt and Chaz Draycott with you. Chaz, not that long now until we get the first of 3 18-lap races. I think the word of the evening, it was the case, I think, last time out for me and Phil Kinch, who will be rejoining us back in a couple of weeks. I think the word carnage is probably going to be the biggest understatement of the year.
Thing for the opposite, to be honest, because it's a wider track than we had at Brands Hatch, where it brings out a bit of the crazy in people, does Brands Indy, but I think we may get away with this here. The drivers are on the warm-up lap now, as you see, with the grid filtering through. You've got the 2 Drake Racing BMWs on the 3rd row. I love it when you get a team lockout on the same row. I don't know what it is about it, but it just makes it really satisfying. Unfortunately, though, what's not so satisfying is Lewis McGlade and Dan Kell, trying to remain unbiased here, down in 11th and 12th. That's not quite right with the setup.
Yeah, plus also, let's not forget that Lewis has got 66 kilos of ballast. He's second in the championship coming into this round, so that could probably have a little bit of an inkling to deal with it, but also with him going a bit skyward and having a flying lesson earlier on in qualifying, probably didn't really help matters either.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it looks like we've got a couple of the E-Team Brit, looks to be the E-Team Brit white cars have ended up starting from the pit lane. Probably didn't make it onto the grid in time. Right. We're just waiting for them to go green. They are off and away, and we're heading down towards Abbey for the very first time. Looks like we've got one of the cars in the lead. That's Rowe. It's nearly 3 abreast at some points. Oh, bit of a moment there, I think, for Toby Davis, or... coming through for the first time, but Ryan Elliott getting a lightning start. Chris Butcher going sideways left, heading into the complex for the first time. That would have been through into Village, and that's one of the Caban Casual Apex cars, the number 6, if memory serves me correctly. Negotiated there so far, Chaz.
2 Drake Racing BMWs were side by side through the very first corner. There was a humongous wobble on the inside, and it held everybody up. You can see it that you've got the 2 Epic Racing Hondas disappearing off, with Butcher between them now in that top 3. Here's Phil Morby currently leading the Independence Championship at the moment, and he wants to continue this great run. Nearly 3 wide there with him as we go on board with Scott Mitchell. He's got the 2 Drake Racing BMWs in front now, and you can see that gap. So they want to try and put as much pressure as they can on those top 3, knowing that slipstream around here is really important to stay with the cars ahead. Bit of bumping and boring. 10th place at the moment. Him and Lewis started 11th and 12th. Car off in the background there, not quite sure who that would have been, maybe even Aidan Millward in his BMW. Having a wobble on the AP, the number 34 machine there, getting very lively indeed. That's Toby Davis himself. But fantastic stuff so far.
Yeah, I've just noticed actually that the likes of Churgwin, all 3 of the... Oh, and that's very, very close there, because that was Shepherd trying to go up the inside of Butcher. It looks like he's trying to forcibly open the door. They bang door panels again. What I've noticed here, Chaz, the biggest thing is that the option tyres are being used by all 3 Drake Racing cars in the very first race. So they're trying to get that, might be a little bit of pain out of the way for a bit of long-term game over the headings as we now head on to our 3rd lap out of 18. But Elliott's now pulling a lead of about 7.5 tenths or so ahead of Butcher, who's kept it pinned ahead of Shepherd in the number 3. But that could hopefully maybe bring in Brewster, Mitchell and Davis, who ran at the top 6 positions. There's Toby Davis. Oh, door checks Scott Mitchell there, and they go, oh, that was round the outside of Brewster. Toby Davis, you little charlatan.
Well, I'm not sure what happened to Brewster there, but he was really slow. And then Davis went around both of them. Don't quite think that he knew he was still 3 wide by the time he turned in. We've got Shepherd and Butcher side by side for 2nd place. Shepherd last time round really launched it up the inside. Look at that, he's trying to cut back, but you can't really go off the circuit there, Chris. He's all over the back of Butcher, though. I think it's going to be a case of when, not if, he goes past. Nearly contact as they go into the 2nd to last. This is all helping Ryan Elliott, though. He can now disappear off up the road with Shepherd absolute of the lap. Chris versus Chris, 3 versus 1. And down the inside goes Shepherd into turn 1. Lovely stuff. Makes it the 2 red arrows at the front of the field then, driven by the end of the race. But Toby Davis is now closing in. to make that a 2-on-2 fight. Look at that send by Scott Mitchell down the inside, but the cutback really working in the favour of Matthew Chirgwin, and he manages to stay in front. Huge train behind those two.
Yeah, keeping my eyes on the fastest lap of the race. That goes to Scott Mitchell with a 1 minute 5.545 time. Look at the gap between him and his teammate at THR. It's closing. It's now a second. Toby Davis has got that to less than 9/10. There's the back on for second position. Nice picture-in-picture shot there of the Kings Racing number 22 of Scott Mitchell. Oh, now look who's behind him. Lewis McGlade has got his way up from 11th to 7th position and is closing on the Astra. But those front-wheel drives, about 66 kilos of ballast. That's going to be rather difficult for Lewis McGlade to try and close the gap on Scott Mitchell. But we've seen that happen before, where people with ballast a little bit more, help that centre of gravity and really help the traction coming out of the corners. And that's quite prominent on a front-wheel drive vehicle there, Chaz.
Especially in conditions as well. It means that they're planted than it usually would be. Chris Butcher's car definitely not as planted as it usually would be. All over the place there as he goes into the right-hander. A little bit side-by-side in the background as well. Knockhill, I think, tried to make a move on Morby, but he's actually lost a place now to Luke Mitchell in the process. It's very easy to try and go down the inside into turn one, but you can get held up massively on the exit and get a really poor run. But look at this now. Chris Butcher all over Shepherd, and his teammate is going to be right there. Teammate nearly to the back. Davis, I don't know how they didn't make contact there, but there was some sort of miracle work going on that time round. This is all playing into the hands of Elliott still, though, Alex. He's absolutely done and gone.
We saw this is pretty much a repeat of what we saw at Brands Hatch a fortnight ago. So Elliott's actually won race 1 at Brands Hatch. Race 2 was Dan McGlade, but yeah, it's now going to be 1 for all and all for one. There's 3 drivers. They're not exactly musketeers because they're not in Shepherd keeping Butcher and Davis at bay. Now we've got a yellow out in sector 1 ever so briefly, but still plenty of racing. And Tyler in the number 70 has had to serve a penalty, probably for a drive-through for track limits abuse, and is down in 23rd. A real shame for Ed Straw, not able to make it through, as there goes Butcher up the inside of Shepherd. Oh, that was close between the pair. Now they tried to get round through. Toby Davis has got the ringside seat here. He's just waiting to see what happens in front.
Yeah, I think there was a little bit of contact there. Shepherd not quite leaving enough room on the inside for Butcher to go in there. It was a bit of a late dive, but at the end of the day, Shepherd would have had enough time. Road trying to stay with him at the moment. It's not working currently, as Toby Davis gets very close to the back of him as well. This is great feisty stuff, but with 2 THR cars climbing around, you could argue that turning in on someone isn't a great defence, but away from that, it has been a great defence by Shepherd at the moment. McGlade now up to 6th place. Dan Kell's lost another place and gone back. Progress hasn't been as good as his teammate, but there's a reason McGlade's 2nd in the championship. He's flying at the moment. Look at this. Toby Davis says, right, if you can't do it, mate, unleash me, let me go. I'll try and knock him out of the way for you. Shepherd's still 2nd. He's going to see Davis in his mirrors and think, oh God, 3 wide here between Mitchell, Morby and Kell. And Mitchell survives and stays just in front of them. Now it's Morby and Kell.
That could have been a bit of new Nomex, virtually speaking, required for Luke Mitchell there. So lap number, again, here at Silverstone International, we're on to what is now, and still the fastest lap in the hands of Scott Mitchell, who rounds out the top 5. Phil Morby trying to, again, close in. He's got Kell right with him, Mitchell just ahead, and then Callum Wilson, who I've seen has been racing in GTR 24H with Glam Race, and he's decided to go for some sprint racing for a change, so good to have him on the grid. Bradley Brockey's one of the E-Team Brit drivers in the 105. Well, but still with all the top 15, Chaz, covered by just over 25 seconds after 8 laps of racing. It's not half bad, is it?
It's all. Everybody fighting like this, and this is what I was saying earlier. Slipstream's quite important around a circuit like this, so you're going to see a number of drivers break away and head off into different groups, but the ones that stick together will have really strong fights. Now, Davis and Shepherd have actually dropped Butcher here. Butcher now a good 1.4 moment on the straight. But wow, that is certainly a development with Butcher dropping that far back. I'm not a clue why he's gone suddenly so far. A bit too hard early on. We saw him go very wide actually, didn't we, between turns 1 and 2 on the previous lap. As kissing the grass, that's Shepherd, that's all it takes. and Davis is going to go through. Shepherd gives him some, and he's giving him too much and takes him into the wall. Toby Davis needs to hold the brakes. Oh, goodness me. Now, there's two sides to that story, and I know that we're going to probably hear both of them at some point, but Shepherd had to come back on at some point, but Davis, for me, I don't know if he left the room or whether he did into his left rear corner, which would have put the car left back into Shepherd again. So that was a tough one, a real shame. Good that Davis carries on going, but we'll see it again.
Yeah, we're going to get to a replay now. Oh, now that's where he just literally, the back end stepped out. Davis to his inside. So Davis is steering right. And Shepherd is going to... Oh, yeah. I think you were spot on with what you said there. And yeah, it was the slightest kiss on the right-hand side. And then all of a sudden, the car rolls into the firing line. Scott Mitchell and Lewis McGlade. I think they nearly had a clean-up on aisle 3 moment right there and then if both of them had that amount of contact as Davis goes Night Rider ski mode there. He's got Sovig ahead of him from Ballas Esports in the Subaru Levorg.
Yes, indeed. It's not a bad car to be looking at the back of, is that Levorg, but I'm sure that Davis would rather be looking at Ryan Elliott a few seconds up the road ahead of him. Damage on the front end from that hit. It will really affect him here in a straight line. So hopefully for his sake he hasn't got any damage, but you'd think that we've got Luke Mitchell having a fight there, I believe, with Phil Morby as they're hard onto the brakes. But look at this lot now, Phil some ways, but then eventually they've got this accordion effect, haven't they, where they'll spread out for a little bit and then more battles will just develop. I'm going to milk that certain aspect of the race for everything that it's got, but it's honestly true around here. We get another replay here then from on board. This is from Scott Mitchell's car. So you can see he goes to the right thinking that Davis's car, once it hits the tarmac, it'll just suddenly stop. But no, it travelled quite a lot further than that. I'm pretty sure he was holding the brakes. You'd have to hope that he was. But even still, that was a scary, scary moment, not just for Davis, but everybody else around him.
Yeah, very much the case. And there is... Oh, now there is a development and a half because Butcher has now got himself up into P3. Scott Mitchell won race 2 at the season opener at Donington Park. So at the minute we have got, we've actually got, by my count, 6 different race winners from 6 different races. And Ryan Elliott could be the first driver this season to do 2 races. So it'd be 6 out of 7 with a consummate lead over Chris Shepherd of nearly over 4.5 seconds. It's going to be a tall order to see if anyone might be able to do that. Well, with the way that Scott Mitchell is now trying to pull away, as Toby Davis has now got a penalty. One of these things that I love about these touring cars is always, Chaz, you see them hit the brakes hard and literally three corners of the wagon of Scott Mitchell, all were rotating and the right rear was holding station.
Just one lockup rotating it around. Now I think that might be a penalty for Davis if he hadn't left the room on the apex, or on the exit of the corner I should say. Maybe he's just run Shepherd out wide and they've deemed that that's what caused the contact. But either way, the race goes on. Luke Mitchell trying still to get past Phil Moore. Love this livery as well on this Astro.
Yeah, nice timing with the word the race.
It's almost like I planned it.
Yeah, it was a cunning subterfuge there.
They've got Dan Kell right behind them as well now in the Zancho Simsport Ford. Now, Dan put in an absolute dream of a performance in race 2 at Brands Hatch. Started on the back of the grid with knows how slow I am and how fast Dan is. Butcher's getting a penalty as well now, very interestingly.
And Davis is... Dave, well, that was more than exceeding track limits. And throwing another left-hander for good measure. So, bit of curb bumping there for Luke Mitchell, unsettling the back end of the 94. But yeah, it's been quite interesting. So that's going to drop Butcher way down the order. Well, that's going to drop him at least out of the top 10. So that will mean that the likes of Lewis McGlade, who's currently P5, will give him a bit of a closure in terms of the gap between himself and Chris Butcher, which coming into this round, if memory serves me, it was 102 points to 78 coming into this round. So Chris Butcher will be on the back foot once again.
Yes, indeed. He's got quite a healthy championship lead at the moment, but that will very quickly disappear, I'm sure. We've got Matt's in the YouTube chat as well, saying hello. Nice to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Now, this is a great little train here that's slightly spread out in some ways, but the battles stay continuous throughout. Callum Wilson holding on to 10th place, but this is going on behind him. Luke Mitchell having a go at Phil Morby. Phil Morby having a go at Luke Mitchell. Bit of contact on the way in. And Dan Kell says, all right, cheers, boys. I'll pick up the pieces and I'll have that one. Dan Kell going through. Oh, there's Slattery off at the side of the road. Not quite sure what's happened to him. But there's been a lot of that this season I've already seen, you know, Alex, where drivers will go down the inside of somebody, which is all fair game. You know, you can get a bit sendy sometimes down the inside, but drivers will just turn in on people. I'm not quite sure what possesses them to do it, but we've seen it a lot.
Yeah, and it's never a great thing, because now Churgwin battling away with McGlade. This is actually for what is 4th position on the road. Churgwin gets a bit curb hungry. Oh! Callum Wilson got a bit of a wake-up call, courtesy of Toby Davis. Well, it was more than a wake-up call. It was like, right, I'm gonna smack the back door in, and here we go. Well, I'm not too sure if Toby Davis got brake check there. I don't think he probably would have done, so I know Callum Wilson not to be that kind of person. But in tin tops, that's a bit of a mare there for the pair of them, and Callum Wilson has got no choice but to go off track. Thank goodness it's runoff, not kitty litter. But here comes Luke Mitchell, Phil Morby and Dan Kell. They're here to pick up the pieces, and Morby's trying to thread the eye of the needle here. But there we go. Luke Mitchell up past Toby Davis. So Toby Davis's rambunctiousness has cost him another penalty. Oh dear.
This is something else that scares me in sim racing that people do. They move over on each other on a straight. It doesn't gain you anything. There's no point doing it. But Dan Kell needs moving over on because he's got down the inside. He's been hooked by Morby. Oh, and it chucks him around. But that's what I mean. People have cars on the inside of them. They still turn in as if they're not there. And it just flicks them the opposite way. The nature of these cars, especially the front wheel drives as well, they just get smacked in the corners on the left rear or right rear, and it'll fling the car around. Dan Kell really unlucky there because that was so opportunistic.
Yeah, well, we're fast coming to the end of what's been a rather action-packed first race here at Silverstone International for round 3 of the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Scott Mitchell, in the meantime, has been closing on Chris Shepherd, but it looks like the Epic Racing crew could be securing its first 1-2 of the season. We're going to go on an onboard here, and this will be, I think, with Morby. So there's Mitchell, there's Dan Kell, and he tried to go for the gap, and yeah, Morby probably just went, well, that's my racing line, I'm going to turn in, and Dan Kell was the beneficiary of an unwanted turnaround.
Yes, indeed, and it's a high-speed place to do it as well. It takes quite a bit of recovering from down at Stowe. That's a real shame for him, and into the pits comes Toby Davis. Hard onto the brakes in the Astra, starts chewing the tarmac on the way in. Callum Wilson's BMW is so lively out of that chicane, but it is very hard to get the traction down in a rear-wheel drive car around there. It's not a very rear-wheel drive friendly part of the circuit when it's so start-stop like that. But he's got Luke Mitchell, headlights ablaze right behind him, with the big red banner on the windscreen as well. If that was the 1999 replica livery from the Nissan Primera, that would be Leroy Aiello's livery. Fantastic performance that season by Leroy. Oh, he was similar to that, actually, just about as exciting as that was for Luke. That was fantastic stuff.
Well, actually, you're starting to help me recall some of my DTM knowledge. Laurent Aiello actually won the DTM in an Audi when they were a privateer team back in the early 2000s. Matthias Ekström was part of that stable as well. But can't really put a good man down like Luke Mitchell for having complete commitment. We are fast approaching the end of this race, and Ryan Elliott looks to become the first two-time winner of the second season here at round 3 of the championship as they go on to the 18th and final lap. Elliott's lead over Chris Shepherd, a monstrous 4.3 seconds. But keep your eyes on Scott Mitchell. He is closing, and he took, there we go, the battle for second very much on, because Scott Mitchell took the best part of nearly 4 tenths out of Chris Shepherd on the previous lap as they make their way through onto the hangar straight for what will be the final lap of this first race out of 3. Elliott's about to do the double. Shepherd and Mitchell, it's close, it's nip and tuck between the pair of them as they're going to go through Stowe for what is the final time. But credit where credit is due to Scott Mitchell for just knuckling down and getting stuck in. That's the Luke Mitchell King's Dealer Racing airplane service. I think that might be put into commission soon there, Chaz.
Yes, they will indeed. But Ryan Elliott has taken the win in the first race of the evening. It's a 1-2 for Elite Racing as well. Brilliant performance by both of them. Sorry, Epic Racing, not Elite Racing. Sorry, boys. Then it's Mitchell finishing third. McGlade, great recovery there to fourth place, just ahead of Chirgwin. And then Brewster behind. Butcher ends up seventh, ahead of Sovic, Wilson, and Luke Mitchell, who rounds out the top 10. We've got battles still going on further down the order. Bobby Vakuinov trying to hold on. He's locked it up into the final corner, pushes the Civic too hard, nearly takes out the Team Brit BMW on the way. We've got the two Caden Casual Apex MGs still having a fight on the exit, but across the line it's Dan Hyde ahead of Jordan Hearn. Flipping out, that was argy-bargy.
God. I think someone needed a bit of new Nomex, and that was Vakuinov on that particular occasion. But Ryan Elliott becomes the first two-time race winner this season so far, and he wins by 3.8 seconds ahead of Epic Racing teammate Chris Shepherd. Scott Mitchell rounds out the top three ahead of Lewis McGlade from Sancho Simsport, who has, through the efforts of one Chris Butcher, who did get a in-race penalty, will close the gap in terms of the championship hunt. Matthew Chirgwin, Cameron Brewster round at the top six for Drag Racing. Chris Butcher actually finishes in 7th position ahead of Scott Sovic. Callum Wilson and Luke Mitchell round out the top 10. Phil Morby keeps his claim to the independent title very strong indeed, finishing 11th ahead of Ben Willis. Dan Kell in 13th ahead of Bradley Brockies, and Toby Davis, who completes the top 15 positions. Dan Hyde, Jordan Hearn, James Lambert, Bobby Vakuinov rounds out the top 19 ahead of Norfolk Endpoints Racing. I love that kind of, creativity spell that some people bring in with regards to teams and liveries. His very much being an part of the Andrew Jordan tribute band, I would imagine, judging by that. Reminds me of the old Pertex livery. Michael Tyler would finish a lap down. John Waldridge would retire, as would James Likes. No points for Revolution Sim Racing, and Ed Straw, unfortunately not getting an opportunity to race, but hopefully we'll see him back in race 2. But nevertheless, Chaz, a dominant display from Ryan Elliott.
Yeah, once the battle started behind him, he didn't really have any reason to worry about it. He just completely focused and disappeared off up the road, and it was a really, really nice drive. Very, very tasty indeed. But, to be honest, he's going to want to do the same again now. He's, let's just have a look at who's on the option tyres. I'm not sure if Mr. Elliott is one of the guys using it. No, he's got the option tyre in this race, so maybe his pace might be hindered slightly here. We'll have to see how he gets on, because, of course, let's not forget you get the ballast in this race as well. So he's going to have two things against him there, but his teammate, Chris Shepherd, also on the option tyre as well. So the two red Civics right at the front will have quite the hindrance going into this one. I'm very, very intrigued to see how this ends up.
Yeah, Toby Davis will run on the option tyre as well, along with Callum Wilson and Scott Sovic. So that effectively makes it, I think, 6 drivers, because I haven't seen hide nor hair of Luke Maguire at the third of the THR Astras, so it looks like he might not be with us this evening. But we're going to go to another commercial break, so we'll be back in just a couple of moments' time here on the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship here at Silverstone International for round 3. Welcome back to continuing coverage of round 3 of the 2021 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Here at the home of British Motor Racing, Silverstone, we're at the international layout, just under 3 kilometres in length. Ryan Elliott becomes the first 2-time winner of Season 2. But we had some really great battles. Scott Mitchell getting stuck in, Chris Butcher falling off a bit of a cliff with regards to the tyres. But race 2 here tonight, Chaz Draycott, could be a very different proposition altogether.
It could indeed. As mentioned earlier, we've got ballast to think about now. Different drivers on the option tyres as well. The option tyre this evening being the hard tyre, so it's more of a hindrance to them this time round in terms of the pace. But they get more life out of the tyre as well. So there's always a bit of one or the other. You give what you get with some of the racing, and now we've got a bit of that with the tyres as well. If you look after them, then your race will go quite smoothly. But when we've seen drivers have the soft tyre at other rounds, Alex, we've seen them wear them out very quickly. I mean, I, for example, at Brands Hatch, made an absolute meal of it because I think by about 4 laps in, I think I'd used about 40% of the tyre just trying to keep it on the road. So this time the drivers have got a bit of the opposite here, where the hard tyre should be easier to look after.
Yeah, very true. Ouch, 40% in 4 laps. You must have been absolutely wringing them by the scruff of the neck.
How bad I am.
Yeah, well, that just goes to show sim racing is just filled with so many foibles. Like real life, you've got so many things to worry about. You've got to think about tyre pressures, brake and tyre temperatures. You've got all the setup of the car, so whether the suspension, the toe in, the toe out. It's just like the real thing. And that's how realistic these simulators are, especially being on the R Factor 2 platform like we are now. But it just goes to show with a lot of the drivers as we're going to get through. Now, here is the starting order for race 2 out of 3. So it's an epic racing front row lockout, courtesy of Ryan Elliott and Chris Shepherd, taking the 1-2. Scott Mitchell, Lewis McGlade, row 2. Matthew Churgwin and Cameron Brewster, that's another Drake Racing lockout, this time row 3. Chris Butcher, Scott Sovic, row 4. Callum Wilson, Luke Mitchell, row 5. Phil Morby, Ben Willis, rounding out the top 12 positions. Hopefully Ben Willis can have a better run of luck this time for race 2. Dan Kell, Bradley Brockies from E-Team, Britt White. Toby Davis was in the trenches and also in the pit lane multiple times in the first race, ahead of Daniel Hyde from Cadan Casual Apex. Then it's Jordan Hearn, James Lambert, Bobby Kewinoff, and then Daniel Slattery rounding out the top 20. Michael Tyler, John Waldridge and James Light complete the 23 strong. Unfortunately, no Ed Straw. I was so looking forward to seeing how he would get on tonight, but hardware problems have forced Ed to not be able to take part. So hopefully, Ed, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time at the next round, which will be in just a couple of weeks, where we go down to Hampshire, to Thruxton on the 25th of August. And funny enough, that very same week, I'm going to be there for social media duties for one of the Mini Challenge UK trophy drivers, Louis Capazzoli. So not only will I be commentating on the virtual aspect, the virtual circuit, Chaz, I'll actually be there in real life on the same blooming week. How's about that one, eh?
It's always strange when you get the opportunity to do that. I had similar with Silverstone recently, where I was commentating there on the F3 Cup, but in the week I'd commentated on a sim race there as well, and it was very odd doing the two. But we're just about to get things underway now. A little bit darker. This should be an interesting one.
Yep, so red lights on the gantry. We wait for the green flag to be shown to the drivers. So Elliott and Shepherd on the front row. Hold on to your hats. It could be another 18 explosive laps of racing. So onto the gantry. The lights do come on. And when they go out, we will be racing. There we go. And they all start getting away. And here's a scrabble for traction. But to be honest with you, Ryan Elliott, I think, is started to get away. But going with him is Lewis McGlade's absolutely launched it off the start. And Chris Butcher finds himself in... he's trying to go for 3rd place. He's in P5. Oh, that's one of the Drake Racing cars. That's the 43. Oh, my goodness. And Shepherd makes an absolute meal of it, and it causes carnage behind. I think that was Churgwin, who's just been T-boned a little bit there. Churgwin gets turned around. He started up, what was it, P5? And he's gotten turned around unceremoniously. That has absolutely spoiled his race, but still, there's another 17 and a bit laps. But look at McGlade. He's all over the back bumper of Ryan Elliott. Now, And now McGlade and Elliott both have had victories. Elliott's had 2 this season. McGlade looking for his second. As McGlade now coming under fire. That's from Chris Butcher. And Sovic has been pushed into a spin in the Subaru Lavore. McGlade getting a bit curb hungry. That is not going to help him if he wants to battle Elliott. But he's got that meat in the sandwich mentality now, because he's got to think of one or two things. It's either attack or defend here, Chaz. And it's very difficult to try and do that on such a track like this.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those circuits where if you do try to have some sort of attack on the car in front, you have to get it right. If you get it wrong, you suddenly prey to the car behind. McGlade down the inside of Elliott, though. Elliott just about avoiding contact. Now he comes across the front of him, and Butcher's going to try and pick up the pieces down the inside into the right-hander. He's not able to do it yet, but this trio glued together early on. It was a real shame about the contact between Shepherd and the BMW of Churgwin early on. Shepherd just going way too hot into turn 2, and then getting a big shove in the right rear of Churgwin's BMW, causing big contact indeed. But Butcher now up to his second place ahead of McGlade. Down the inside of Ryan Elliott. I didn't think there was a gap there for a second. Then he's managed to find it. Elliott says not in your life, tries to elbow him out to the right, but now he's got to think about McGlade down the inside. McGlade backs out of it. That was really brave stuff, but great fighting early on. How is this going to affect the tyres, though?
Yeah, but how is this going to affect those trying to close in from behind? Because behind them, they've got Chris Shepherd closing in on their 6th, and also Cameron Brewster. So we go back. This is what happened earlier. Oh, and it just got a bit too clumsy there for Shepherd. He went up onto 2 wheels, then all of a sudden, that spun Churgwin around, and then all of a sudden, look at the front left wheel. That is, oh, that's not good at all, because that was towing in like at the top. Oh, he's got no steering. Steering's absolutely knackered on that, and I'm sure that is why he's going to be driving a very winded car. Yeah, and Dan Kell to his left. So Dan Kell also in the trenches. I would think that Matthew Churgwin could have to retire. But if he drives with that steering, the way that sort of it's not exactly straight and true, as somebody a little bit further back goes a bit wide. That's Vakuinov in the Honda Civic, rounding out the top 14. It's getting rather close. Butcher up the inside of Elliott, and here comes McGlade. He's trying to bash door panels with the 66 Honda from Epic Racing, and again going through into Vale and into Club. Butcher's got the lead. McGlade's faster. Well, Shepherd just absolutely pinned it going through from Vale into Club, and got the job done on McGlade. And Butcher now is starting to streak away. Look at the gap over Elliott. He's got nearly 9/10 of a second gap, and Toby Davis, watch out for him. He's out for fire and brimstone right now. Up 9 places up to P6, and he's got the fastest lap.
There's a replay back at Sovic and Shepherd. Oh, that was the contact. Again, Shepherd just turning in on someone. I'm sorry, but it seems to always be Shepherd, unfortunately. But Sovic tried it down the inside. Shepherd gets the Civic in the way. And the rear-wheel drive nature of Sovic's Subaru, meaning that you can't just plant your foot and save it like you would in a front-wheel drive car. Now, this is the moment now where we're going to see Butcher without much weight on board. Let's not forget he finished 7th in race 1. He's going to be able to stay ahead of the likes of Elliott, Shepherd, McGlade, who've all got more weight in the car. Toby Davis as well is going to be trying to come through. But McGlade side by side with Shepherd at this point. Into Club and Vale. Keeps on the inside. A little bit of curb for McGlade. They're giving each other enough room, although Shepherd runs out a little bit wide, says not in your life. Now Davis goes down the inside. Is he going to give McGlade a tap? Nobody's boxed in down the straight here now, Alex.
Yeah, and McGlade now. Oh, that's threading the eye of the needle there, Toby Davis. Neatly done to get past Lewis McGlade, but then nearly gets a bit of a Tiff Needell Scandinavian flick there. And now this could open the floodgates. If something happens between Davis and Shepherd, this could open the floodgates for those behind. You've got McGlade, you've got Willis, you've got Brewster, you've got Mitchell. Look, it's like cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war as soon as someone is whoever is the cork on in the bottle. And that quite clearly here now, Chaz, is Chris Shepherd. The minute Davis gets past, you can bet your bottom dollar everyone else is trying to get through as well. And McGlade trying to look towards the outside. That was a bit of door checking there between Shepherd and Davis, as McGlade looking to get the boot on the other foot, so to speak. And a little bit of a bump and run there, but it's the slightest of touches, and that's all it can do to unsettle a front-wheel drive car. And Toby Davis, with his real-life racing experience through Clio Cup and other championships, he knows how to race around here at Silverstone in real life, but also on a sim.
was him and Shepherd that came together in the first race as well, with Toby Davis falling down the order, so he's sort of giving him a little bit of what he's got. But you don't need to move over on a straight on people. Like I said in the first race, you do not gain anything from it. It's not NASCAR, you don't get side draft, but there's so many battles going on in there. You've got Luke Mitchell at the moment all over the back of Ben Willis, Lewis McGlade just in front of him, and then you've got Scott Mitchell here trying to hold off Cam Brewster in the number 39, then it's Callum Wilson just behind them. Oh, Luke Mitchell and Phil Morby are off. Morby sideways, gets avoided by everybody somehow. Oh, does he have flipping heck? That was a scary moment there. Not a clue what happened. It's hard to miss Phil Morby's very bright yellow and red Ford Focus, but there was surely contact there as you go from the right to the left. It's an easy weight transfer when you're on your own, but when there's other cars in a battle there, it's easy to flick it one way then the other and end up across somebody's nose.
I just hope he wasn't channeling his inner Ken Block, activating Hoonigan drift mode on that Ford Focus, because that would definitely not be the right time to do it. It might have been after the race. But okay, we're going to go to. So he's launched it. Oh, and he's got a turnaround. Well, the thing is, he's launched it up the in between Luke Mitchell and Ben Willis, and he's gone so literally, he's just properly sent it.
I think.
Go on.
Sorry, I think Luke Mitchell had already been turned, and then I think, was it Brewster that was... Oh, sorry, Willis was already going slowly because of that contact, so he just tried to get some sort of switch back on him, but then Willis wanted to get back over to the racing line on the left, which is the natural line through there, and then unfortunately, Morby's found himself across his nose, collects it one way then the other, but now this fight continues then. We have the 68 of Lambert in 10th place at the moment, ahead of Jordan Hearn, Phil Morby and Luke Mitchell. And just ahead of that, you've got Cam Brewster and Scott Mitchell. Sorry, that's Willis and Mitchell even further ahead. I need to remember which teammates in which order with these drag racing cars. They're all over the place at the moment. Top four going through the bottom of the shot. But, oh, there's contact. That's Jordan Hearn trying to hold off Lambert. They're having a bit of a touch into Club and Vale.
Oh, yeah, and James Lambert, one of the E-Team Brit White drivers, doing it, but leaves the door open. There goes Mr. Hoonigan himself, Phil Morby. Luke Mitchell waiting. Oh, Luke Mitchell gets door checked right there. Coming through out of club. We've got a yellow in sector 3. So someone's been off the track. But James Lambert going a bit sideways, going through into Abbey and into Farm Curve. He's really on the ragged edge. And any possibility of an overtake here for Luke Mitchell could happen. Scott Mitchell still battling away with Ben Willis, trying to pull away from the ever-closing Callum Wilson in the 8th place, number 404 BMW. As a little bit further back, there's two battles happening here. Elliott versus Davis, Shepherd versus McGlade. And those two battles ran out the top 5. P6, Scott Mitchell and Ben Willis. Willis last season was running in the Subaru Levorg, was the sole entry under the drag racing banner. But you can just see how close as someone's nose has gone tipping forward, and that could have been Vakuinov, I think, just there. But Chris Shepherd being bullied a little bit here by Lewis McGlade, who's just putting the frighteners on a little bit.
Just a bit, yeah. It's absolutely glued to the back of that Civic, is Lewis McGlade's Focus. All over him at the moment. We've got 2 penalties, by the way, that flashed up a moment ago. Dan Hyde and Dan Slattery both getting penalties for track limits so far. Here's Dan Hyde's teammate Jordan Hearn. Phil Morby trying to go through down the inside. You can see it lifts the right rear wheel off the ground. Hearn lifting every single wheel off the ground. Avoids making contact with Morby though. Good awareness there to not hit the very bright yellow and red, almost avoidable Focus. Now we have James Lambert with Luke Mitchell right behind, but here's McGlade trying to go down the inside of Shepherd. He's finally got it done, but will Shepherd get a cutback out of Stone? McGlade's got to defend this hard now. You're going to see him stay over to the right of your shot to make sure there's no room for Shepherd. He knows that he needs to do something else apart from that. Elliott going strong in 2nd place. Butcher still doing a great job leading it, but McGlade now 3rd. How quickly can he catch Elliott, do you think, Alex?
Oh, that's going to be a tough one. I mean, looking at the lap times at the moment, both concurrent on pace, 1 minute 6.9s from the pair of them. But, you know, looking at past form, Lewis McGlade has already had 2 third places this season. Race 1 at both Donington Park at Brands Hatch, as Ben Willis and Scott Mitchell go side by side once again. But Mitchell keeping that front-wheel drive Astra very much where he needs to. Callum Wilson and Cam Brewster are closing in. So that's three F20M 330i M Sports closing in on a Vauxhall Astra. But Scott Mitchell, I have to give credit where credit is due. He has done a very credible job, but Ben Willis looks to have the side-by-side run going down the hanger straight into Stoke Corner for P6 and neatly gets the job done before the apex. But Scott Mitchell already on the counter-offensive.
Yes, indeed. Plenty of switchbacks going on at Stowe, but these guys now trying maybe to just stay a little bit more level-headed, thinking potentially if we work together we could move forward as a group here and go after Davis. Well, or you can go sideways, Ben. It's completely up to you, mate. But Scott Mitchell glued to the back of him now. And then he's, of course, got Wilson and Brewster following on. A nice little quartet at the moment. An Astra amongst 3 BMWs. 2 Drake racing cars bookending this little quartet. You can see the Astra really does dive on the brakes, doesn't it? Really does headbutt the floor.
Yeah, it does, and that's a very interesting characteristic. I mean, there was a bit of a Munich madness with Ben Willis going sideways earlier on, but yeah, with a front-wheel drive car, when you look at it from this perspective, Ben Willis has got a penalty. Oh, that's kiboshed his race, unfortunately. So that means, limits. Yeah, that is easily for track limits. So I think just with the way that both he and Scott Mitchell were pushing, they were pushing past the limits of adhesion and also past the limits of the track. And you know, the system software can be quite draconian, but that's the way it is. Luke Mitchell having a little bit of a battle. That is with James Lambert from E-Team Grip White, and that is for 12th on the road. So this goes into service penalty. So that now means that Mitchell goes into 6th. Wilson and Brewster round out the top 8. I think this is going to drop Ben Willis more than likely. If he gets out quick enough, I think he might just be in the bottom echelon of the top 10. It's come out just in front of Phil Morby, it looks like, as Lewis McGlade. Again, now this time, he's got past Shepherd already. He's still got a few laps to go, but I think that McGlade fancies a 2nd place. Now, he hasn't had one this season so far, but be a nice little addition, because I think with, you know, being on lap 12 out of 18, the gap between Butcher and Elliott, 6.2 seconds, is big enough, way too big a mountain to climb. As it's a little bit side by side here. That's Jordan Hearn up the inside of Phil Morby for 9th position. That was a great little move there by Hearn in the MG.
Just a little bit later on the brakes than Morby, able to get that MG nice and stabilised as they go into Stowe. Instantly on the defensive though. He knows how quickly Morby wants to get back at him there. The very bright red and yellow wheels on that Focus rotating furiously, and he's hopefully not going to rotate Hearn furiously here as they go through the final corner. Hearn just staying in front, but now that means that right behind them you've got Ben Willis trying to pick this apart as well. He puts his nose down the inside. Morby's gone very wide, manages to keep it on the black stuff though. He's not on the grass. Now Luke Mitchell's in the picture. He says, get out wide then, Willis. I'll try this instead, mate. Hold onto the brakes. Around the outside of him goes Mitchell. Uses that front wheel drive grip. Doesn't have to worry about planting his foot there because, of course, the rear-wheel drive car, the back end will step out. The back end's going to definitely step out if Luke Mitchell hits it, because Ben Willis gets a crossover on him. Now we go to McGlade, trying to go around the outside of Elliott. Turns into his door. Checks what colour the door handles are. They're definitely blue now. But then you've got Shepherd trying to defend from Davis as well. This could get very spicy with a few laps to go.
Yeah. So 2 FK2 Civics, a Ford Focus and a Vauxhall Astra. And plenty of colours from which to choose from. 5 laps to go on race 2 out of round 3 of the 2021 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. Davis looking to plant it round the outside. Well, he gets to the apex before Shepherd even had an opportunity to do so and snatches P4 away from the number 3 Honda. But Lewis McGlade is trying, well, he's trying his hardest as Lewis at the moment to try and get past Ryan Elliott. The 66 Epic Racing Honda Chaz is punting the car exactly where he needs to, but all Lewis needs is a good run and a mistake from Elliott to have that chance to capitalise.
Yeah, you've got to think about the ballast now. Now that Lewis will have some ballast in that car, of course, but not as much as Elliott. And down the straight, combined with the slipstream, that's going to hurt Ryan. Look at this, he's trying just to back Lewis up here. Lewis is saying, get on with it, sunshine, but in different words, let me tell you that for free. Trying to just give him a bit of a shove. down through Stowe into the final chicane. Ryan goes defensive on the inside. Now you've got to think, where's Davis in all of this? He has to worry about Shepherd behind him. So the four of them line astern once again. Bit of a dive into the sky there by Davis. Gets a bit of a tap from Shepherd. Again, I told you, it's always Shepherd making contact, isn't it? These two had contact in the previous race. They're now door banging like mad down the straight. Doesn't need to happen, boys. Doesn't need to happen. But Davis stays in front for now, albeit at the expense of maybe a wing mirror and a door handle. But it's probably going to cost about £5 in spare parts. Is that? He looks very, very wide into turn 2, though, and he is. He's absolutely, well, he butchered that, you could say. Now he's got to shepherd the car back onto the circuit, and he's done that behind Scott Mitchell, who suddenly popped up into the top 5. Where do these guys keep coming from?
Scott Mitchell again. Scott Mitchell again has been putting in fastest laps. He seems to be really, I think, a bit of a consistency freak is Scott Mitchell. But like you say, yeah, Toby Davis definitely did butcher that one when he went completely wide behind, you know. And the thing is at the end of the day, Scott Mitchell has become part of the flock, so to speak, isn't he? Because he is behind Shepherd at the moment. But Davis, I think, will want to get back on good terms in terms of positioning of the cars. But then you look at where Callum Wilson is, then there's this little dust up here, Ben Willis in the thick of things. He's got a BMW behind, that's James Lambert. He's got Phil Morby, who you can't really miss. I think if you put Google Maps on Silverstone right now, you'd probably see Phil Morby's car there front and centre over the start-finish line. But this train here, and that is being led by Cadan Casual Apex's Jordan Hearn in the number 6 MG. And what a drive from Hearn so far. He's really put it on the defensive. Ben Willis trying to get past, but you know what? He turned in well there. He didn't turn in as to sort of door check Jordan Hearn. It's just like to say, look, just to let you know I'm there.
Yes, indeed. And it's not been a great race if you're from Revolution Sim Racing, by the way. John Wooldridge and James Like both out of the race now. Unfortunately, Wooldridge had done only 9 laps, but you can see on the left-hand side there, he is now classified as a DNF. But Scott Mitchell having to defend from fellow Astra driver Davis. Now, this is a look back at just a moment ago. Oh, apologies, sorry. Mike's trying to throw me off the centre. He's like, Chaz, it's your first broadcast with me on this series. Watch this, we'll throw you some curveballs, lad. Anyway, this is a beautiful train.
But yeah, I think just the way that the driving being exemplified in this particular train, now we see that Ben Willis, Jordan Hearn goes across to try and squeeze him a little bit, but Ben Willis decides to thread the eye of the needle between Hearn and Morby. There's Luke Mitchell. Oh, that's a bit close for comfort there, and a little bit of door checking between Willis and Hearn. Willis to the inside, Mitchell to the inside of Morby. But Hearn could get the inside run for the next corner. Oh, that was close. Oh! Did Jordan Hearn just save that one? Oh my goodness! He nearly did a Morby like Morby did at Brands Hatch through Paddock Hill Bend, and oh, that has instantly given him a penalty, and I think that is for track limits.
Yeah, it definitely will be. I mean, I don't know how you're allowed to completely abuse track limits when you're not on the ground, but it was very, very much a big cut of the curb, and it was very, very clear to us that he chucked it skyward, and now you can see he tries to stay out of the way to make sure he's got a clear onto the pits. But onto the final lap, car 1, P1, defending and reigning champion, as mentioned, Chris Butcher on a real strong drive through to the front of the pack. Don't forget, he finished that first race in 7th after a penalty. He hasn't got as much ballast on here. He's looked so comfortable, and he has at least a 10-second lead now. This is the Chris Butcher that we're used to seeing. And to be honest, you can see the visual gap there. What a great drive this has been.
Yep, from 7th on the grid, having been in the trenches in race 1 for round 3 of the season. Chris Butcher making his way down through Vale and into club for what will be the 18th and final lap. We've got one more race after this one, and there will be a little bit of a reverse draw for positions 6 to 12, but out of the final corner, Chris Butcher becomes the second race driver in season 2 of VMO to take 2 wins, having won the first race of the season. But unfortunately, Lewis McGlade, second, not quite there, but he's going to get third, his third place of the season. Ryan Elliott takes second place. Chris Shepherd rounds out the top 4. Scott Mitchell ends up P5 after all the skirmishing and all the dust had settled. As that was James Lambert literally closing the door off to Dan Kell. That was for 11th on the finish there. Callum Wilson takes 7th, Ben Willis in 8th, Phil Morby and Luke Mitchell complete the top 10 ahead of James Lambert, who literally was, I think, thousandths ahead of Dan Kell. Vakuinov in the 13th place Honda Civic, ahead of Scott Sovic. Jordan Hearn, that could have been a so much better race had Jordan Hearn not been flying without wings on that particular occasion in that race. Ends up 15th ahead of Bradley Brockies, Matthew Churgwin, Daniel Hyde, Daniel Slattery, Michael Tyler. Cameron Brewster did actually retire towards the end of the race. John Waldridge and James Like, unfortunately DNFs, but Chris Butcher, as you said, Chaz, exemplary form, and it now balances the equilibrium, so to speak, in the battle for the title between him and Lewis McGlade.
Yeah, Lewis obviously gained a couple of points on him in that first one, but now Ryan has... Ryan? Sorry, I was thinking of Ryan Elliott taking the win in the first one. Chris Butcher has definitely returned the favour now. He's going to be really pleased with that. A fantastic drive, completely unchallenged. As soon as he got clear and all the battling started going on behind him and Ryan Elliott started falling away with that ballast, it was just easy pickings for him. It was great to see some of the battles in the middle of the field, though, the likes of James Lambert really getting stuck in it, Callum Wilson, Ben Willis as well. There was a number of the BMW drivers really getting their elbows out, but it was fantastic racing because you need to be so careful in those BMWs, with them being rear-wheel drive. If they do get sideways, like I said earlier, it's not just like you can plant your foot as hard as possible and just save the car with the front wheels bringing it around. You just have to cling on for dear life and just sort of carefully caress the car back to the right way. You need to just concede that you're going to lose a bit of momentum. There's plenty of momentum behind the right arm of that Marshall in the background there with that yellow flag. I'd say that. I want some of whatever he's having. But you've got to just caress the car back to where it's going. You've got to concede that you will lose the momentum. You know, if you are sideways, you're not going to keep it at race pace all the time. So in a rear-wheel drive car, there's a bit of what you call compromise with the pace of it to make sure that it gets a good exit of a corner, because they look after the tyres quite well. They may take a little bit longer to get up to temperature, but that's the sort of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other that we get with rear-wheel drive versus front-wheel drive.
Yeah, and a few drivers will be heading on to the option tyres. Chris Butcher, Scott Mitchell, Luke Mitchell, Dan Hyde, Bradley Brockies, Michael Tyler and Bobby Vakuinov will be on the option tyres, the hard compound tyres, for the third and final race here at Silverstone International for the Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. We'll be back in just a couple of moments' time.
To allow us to be able to compete on a level playing field, we've had to use existing technology to create a set of hand controls that allow us to race on a level playing field. So if you imagine you're going to chicane at 150 miles an hour, our disabled drivers have to go to go through the chicane at the same speed as the able-bodied driver. That means braking, steering, gear down, on the throttle, off the throttle, on the brake. Now, if we keep losing half a second or a few tenths of a second at every chicane, we might be the best driver on the track, but we can't be competitive. So that was the criteria that I gave the engineers, that if we can't do that, then we can't go racing. Al Locke he's the brains behind our team. He's our race engineer. I tell him what I want and how I want it. He says it's not possible, and I know it's possible because I believe in Al. The cost of the hand controls varies from about £5,000 to about £7,500. That's because we've managed to find a manufacturer in Slovenia that does all this specialist engineering. None of this would be possible without Al's British engineering.
The main thing that inspires me to keep going with Team Brit is the quest for constant improvement. You know, we've developed a set of hand controls, and we're not a team that's going to rest on their laurels. We're constantly pushing for better and faster developments.
Well, two different winners tonight, Ryan Elliott and Chris Butcher. The only two drivers out of the current Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship field that have secured 2 race victories. And what's more, it's at 2 different race events. So Chris Butcher took a win at the season opener at Donington. Ryan Elliott took one at Brands Hatch a couple of weeks ago. And tonight they have both taken another victory on their way to looking to secure championship glory. We do have 3 titles up for grabs. We have the teams, we have the overall drivers, and just like in the British Touring Car Championship, we have the independents. But it has been one apiece, Ryan Elliott and Chris Butcher. But I have seen that we've had our reverse grid draw, and the driver that will end up being on pole position, I've just seen, is, according to Matt Richards, is Dan Kelt from Sancho Simsport. So, looks like somebody's not going to be very, very happy at all where they're going to be starting on this particular grid. But it has been rather entertaining. A big thank you to Mike Yao, our broadcast director, Simsport Solutions, our broadcast partners. And of course, if anyone does want to sample the new F20 BMW 330i M Sport, I implore you to head to G20. So my apologies. Thank you, Mike, for just simply correcting me there. Head to Simply Race at Milton Keynes. It is a new facility. It's absolutely brilliant. I've got a little bit of a pet project where I actually drove the car itself, not on a traditional British circuit. I actually drove it at the Hockenheimring. People might be thinking, why on God's green earth, Alex Goldschmidt, did you do that? Well, I wanted to try and, go on a circuit that I knew and get to know the car. So that will be coming soon, hopefully on my YouTube channel when I can actually get around to editing it all. Like I say, if you want to go and have a really good laugh on at a great place that provides really, really good simulator equipment, Thrustmaster equipment as standard over there, go to simplyrace.co.uk. You'll find out all the information. They've also got their Simply Race British Championships and also the Endurance Series. Well, the British Champs have already started back once again. But the Endurance Series, I think, is coming up very, very soon indeed. And normally they are live broadcasted directly from the site itself. And yeah, I'm just waiting for my good compadre, for Chaz Draycott to come back into the commentary box. I think he's, I don't know what. Okay, so Chaz, we've had 2 different winners, both of which have secured victories. So Chris Butcher at round 1. And again here at round 3, Ryan Elliott at Brands, and here tonight as well. It's really spicing things up because I think now that Ryan Elliott is going to be the one that is really gunning, along with Lewis McGlade, for the title that Chris Butcher currently holds.
Yeah, he will indeed. Apologies about that there. I've completely forgot that I had my microphone muted, and I was trying to very rudely interrupt, but I was just shouting into the abyss at the seemed. We've also, like you say, they've got a fantastic potential title fight going up at the moment. Not as interesting as the title fight in the reverse driving championship that you can see footage from in the background there, which
Yes.
we had here at Silverstone a few months ago. It was great fun. But no, you're right though. It's going to be an interesting title fight. Obviously, only the 3rd race meeting of the season. We're not even into double digits yet with these races. I think that, to be honest, the way it shapes up now really is what sort of gives these drivers the mental capacity to keep pushing forward in the series. If you have a bad first few rounds and you think, I'm not in the fight anymore, or you've got a lot of work to do, it often just piles more pressure on you. You do it to yourself, and then that's when the mistakes set in for the rest of the season. So at the moment, with Butcher coming into this race meeting with such a championship lead, I think he's going to be really calm now after getting another win under his belt, and this third race for him will just be about scoring points.
Yeah, but it's also about who gets a victory. Will we have 3 different winners from 3 different races tonight? Well, we've had 6 from 8 over the season so far, and we are just awaiting for things to get underway with our third and final race. We head to Thruxton in just a couple of weeks' time, based out of Andover in Hampshire. About 3-hour drive from my current location in North Essex, but looking forward to actually heading down there and also commentating from a virtual perspective here on VMO TCUK.
A quick side note, sorry, about Thruxton. It's one of the coolest places to commentate because I'm a huge aviation fan, and the commentary box at Thruxton, obviously Thruxton is still an active airfield most of the time for general aviation aircraft, and the commentary box is in the control tower for the airport. So I get to stand in an air traffic control tower overlooking an airfield while commentating on race cars. It's literally a dream when you go to Thruxton. It's great.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking forward to actually being there. I think I've got some duties at the local kart circuit for a charity gig on the Thursday night, raising money for motor neuron disease, which is going to be another. We as commentators, or again, we've got the frantic Marshall, who's probably had about 15 cups of coffee before this race meeting got underway. Well done. Just hope your biceps, triceps, and your deltoid muscles are all not getting any lactic acid build up there, mate. But from being able to commentate on circuits in the sim racing world, Chaz, and then to get the opportunity to do it at the circuit is something completely different, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's mega. Absolutely mega. Something else that's mega, for me, Sancho bias, Dan Kell has been reversed onto pole position. James Lambert alongside him. And I think, to be honest, this may be Dan's race to lose. Obviously, you get the ballast put on the cars as well, and you get your positions reversed. So Chris Butcher will be 12th on the grid with maximum ballast. Ryan Elliott and Lewis McGlade just in front of him on the grid, as you see there. And Chris Shepherd, who's got the widest Civic in the world this evening, it seems. Those guys are going to have a tough time in this one. Now, I'm just looking through the drivers that have gone for the option tyre in this. Chris Butcher himself is on the option tyre. That's interesting to see. Scott Mitchell and Luke Mitchell both on it as well. Dan Hyde looking further down the order to see if there was neither of the Zandshow drivers going for it this time round. They both got the option tyre out of the way in race 1. So I think Dan Kell, personally, knowing how quick Dan is, could be another driver to win his second race of the season in this. No bias either. Like, genuinely, just I think Dan's got this.
I know that our good friend Jack Nichols is watching. He said if Scott stops starting races like an idiot, he could be quite good at racing. Thank you very much, Mr. Nichols.
Savage.
Hey, you know what? At the end of the day, he's being rather upfront and honest about it, and I'll give Jack Nichols kudos where it's due as they now make their way onto the starting grid for the third and final time for round 3 out of 10 for the 2021 VMO Touring Car UK Championship. So we're just waiting. Looks like we have got no James Lyke, but John Waldridge now into position at the back of the grid. 22 cars, 18 laps of racing. And the red lights go out. We are off and away, and a bit of a slow start. Looks to be from Michael Tyler, I think, at the back end of the grid. But, James Lambert has absolutely launched the Beamer into the stratosphere, let alone being here at Silverstone. And he leads from, that's Dan Kell. So an absolute launch and a half from James Lambert. Phil Morby finds himself in P3. Toby Davis has a bit of door checking there. That was with one of the BMWs. And Luke Mitchell's trying to go up his inside. That was the 85 of Ben Willis, who has decided to go grass cutting. Doing a bit of a Valtteri Bottas going onto the hanger straight there was Ben Willis. Currently sits in P4 at the moment. But Davis looking up the inside. Luke Mitchell just behind. And there is, I think that's Lewis McGlade and Callum Wilson. Mitchell takes a little bit of grass and a little bit of curb. And nearly gets door checked again there by the BMW. McGlade and Wilson right with them as Dan Kell trying to battle with James Lambert from E-Team Brit White for the lead as they come round to complete the first lap. And it's all flotsam and jetsam right behind them from probably about 7th downwards there, Chaz.
That was a good recovery there, to be honest, by Dan Kell, getting that lead back. But, yeah, what a start by Lambert. Unbelievable stuff. But he needs to just defend as best he can now. Big slide going into the right-hander. There's Shepherd down the inside of Mitchell. Well, I know that the connection side of things and our factor make that look very, very intentional by Luke Mitchell. The battling continues, though. Shepherd has riled a few people up. Here comes Ryan Elliott, I think it is, down the inside. Shepherd's definitely ruffled a few feathers tonight, it looks like. Mitchell staying in the middle of the road now. Chris Butcher having a bit of argy-bargy as well. Is that Ryan Elliott that's in there with him? Seems like it is. They're 3 wide, actually, because Sovic's on there as well. Elliott cuts over to the left-hand side of the circuit. Lights on and off. Gives Butcher another little sniff up the inside. Sorry, around the outside. You've got then Carl. Nope, get it right. Dan Hyde is a little bit further back than that. That's Jordan Hearn down the inside as well. Everybody piling in behind Shepherd here. He can't hit all of them out of the way, can he?
Well, otherwise he'd be calling it a strike like it was 10-pin bowling there. But Scott Sovic closing in. Dan Kell with the fastest lap of the race. 1 minute 6.021. So it's definitely getting a bit hot and heated there. Sovic battling away with Ryan Elliott. That is for what is 11th place on the road. Scott Sovic keeps the Subaru Levorg up in front, and James Lambert is battling away with Toby Davis, who now has gotten past Phil Morby for what is P3. Lewis McGlade battling away with Ben Willis for 5th place. And then Scott Sovic having one sent up the inside by Ryan Elliott, but Sovic keeps his foot well and truly stuck in. Kudos to him. That's going through the loop and into the hangers straight. Yellows out in sector number 1. Could be a drama for Wooldridge. Is that Jordan Hearn? That very much is the case, trying to get on level terms with Ryan Elliott. Ryan Elliott not having a great time at all. And you've got Callum Wilson not too far behind. A little bit of track limits abuse there from Jordan Hearn as he switches to the other side. It's 3 abreast for 2nd place. Morby up the inside of Lambert. Davis to the outside through the final corner. And Morby gets through. And Davis door checks once again. And that was a significant one there on James Lambert. Lewis McGlade looking up the inside of Lambert, going through into Abbey. And, God, that was definitely more of... Get your elbows out, and this is getting rather close here. 2 by 2, hurrah! And that's for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. I count up until 11th to 10th place, and I can see Chris Butcher in the distance as Morby turns in on Davis. McGlade like a rat up a drain pipe trying to get past the pair of them. He gets past Davis. Can he get past Morby? Now this, more importantly, is for 2nd position on the road, and this could help Lewis McGlade, but Dan Kell has shot off into the stratosphere right now. Davis trying to look up the inside of McGlade. Morby to the outside. That's not looking very good for Morby at the moment, but he's going to get the inside run through Vale and into Club Corner. And Toby Davis has got James Lambert, who I must give a bit of kudos to for keeping stuck in as it's all kicking off behind. I think I saw a clattering of panels between Ben Willis and Scott Mitchell. And Scott Sovic is not too far behind. Lambert trying to go towards the inside of Toby Davis. This is going through into Abbey. And Davis keeps it pins in front. And McGlade up ahead of Morby into 2nd.
Can I just point out that in the Discord server before this race, which is like the virtual paddock, if you will, the drivers were all having a chat about their 2nd race. And Toby Davis was saying that with Shepherd in the 2nd race, that was twice they've raced each other a bit too hard now. And his own words were, let's both dial it back, because there's a huge, huge hit. Ryan Elliott's been clattered into. Right rear gets a smack. I think was Shepherd in that as well. Shepherd seems to have disappeared for a moment, and I think he went off exit stage right. But yeah, Davis saying before this race, let's both dial it back. Yeah, good luck with that, mate. That certainly looks like he's listened to his own advice. But I think, yeah, Shepherd dropping down the order. And if I'm honest, I'm going to say this out loud. It doesn't surprise me after the sort of evening that he's had. The argy-bargy nature of his racing this evening has sort of caught up with him, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, it's also taken an unwilling victim in the form of James Lambert, who's just DNF'd, unfortunately, on lap 4.
Yeah, he's typing in the chat already.
Oh, dearie me. he's gone, I've never seen that happen before, were his words. Okay, we're going to go to a replay. So there's Lambert, there's Luke Mitchell. Oh, this is going to smart.
Oh.
Just like...
Oh, hello.
That's... Oh.
What
and then all
on...
of a sudden... that is not meant to happen, I'm afraid, R Factor 2. Whoops.
No, when a mummy Honda and a daddy Honda love each other very much. Although, to be fair, Daddy Honda was away with Mummy BMW by the look of it. But anyway, Phil Morby second place at the moment, Toby Davis third, McGlade now in fourth place, Butcher up into fifth position currently, but Dan Kell, who picked him to win, is completely off in the distance at the moment, flying away with it.
Yeah, no bias there at all, Chaz.
No, not at all.
None at all. But you have to give credit where credit is due. Matthew Churgwin is trying to fight back, and that is... Oh, now who's that he's battling with? That is... Is that Jordan Hearn he's battling away with? There's Akunov as well. Then you've got Cameron Brewster, who actually had a hardware... he had a server crash, literally on the final lap, going to the Hangar Straight, which is why he was not able to finish. And at the minute... Scott Mitchell, again, for another race this evening, has set the fastest lap. As Churgwin trying to do his level best to get past the number 21, Vakuinov, and looks to get the inside run on the next corner, but he's got Churgwin right behind. Churgwin has got Brewster right behind him. And there is Bradley Brockies in the other E-Team Brit white BMW. Now, E-Team Brit last time, I think if memory serves me correctly, they actually used a BMW, but they also... I actually used BMWs. Oh, now Ryan Elliott. I think he's got a bit of a curse of the Chris Butchers, because now he's got a penalty, and that's going to drop him down the order quite substantially as a result of that, whatever that was. I think it might. I'm wondering if that might have had anything to do with that mummy BMW and Daddy Honda having a bit of a 2 and 8. But then Jordan Hearn has a bit of a moment there. Matthew Churgwin up the inside in the 43. Calmly takes 11th position off of the Cadan Casual Apex MG. And Jordan Hearn has got to watch his P's and Q's a bit here, Chaz, because he's got 3 cars right up his back bumper.
Yeah, he does indeed. Once again, we've just got these trains of cars developing so quickly, but then it's ending in tears a little bit. It's like the last day of school once again in the third race here. It's really kicking off bit by bit. Now, Toby Davis goes to the outside of Phil Morby, then cuts back across to the inside into Stowe, gets his nose down the inside. Nothing doing there. Morby carries the pace around there. Nicely played by Phil Morby. Doesn't look like McGlade is quite able to stay with them there. But then, all of a sudden, you get to a start-stop piece of the circuit, and it concertina's up again. McGlade just hanging on in 4th place, while you can see Kell away and gone at the road. Luke Mitchell going well at the moment in 6th position, but as you said before, with the likes of the drivers behind him, he needs to watch his mirrors a bit here.
Yeah, we've also, I've actually got a DNF showing up here for Ryan Elliott, so we're down to 18 drivers being rounded out by Michael Tyler in the E-Team Brit Ford Focus. We're on board with Scott Sovic in the Subaru. Then we quickly switch back to the 3-way scrap for second. Phil Morby still leading that, ahead of Toby Davis and Lewis McGlade. So McGlade has picked up a victory. He's got 3 third places so far this season. Toby Davis, we saw flashes of brilliance in season 1, but he's trying to plant it around the outside. That's brave going through Vale. Toby Davis could get the inside run into the next complex, and Morby's going to have to give him racing room through into Club. And Morby, door checks, and that's going to open the door possibly for Lewis McGlade as through into the final corner they go. Morby still up the inside, and Lewis McGlade nicely using the slipstream there. Then Toby Davis looks to come across in front of the number 78 Ford Focus from Zanstrow Simsport into Abbey, into Farm. I must be completely honest, that was great up until this point here where Toby Davis just launches it up the inside. That's through into Village and then through into the kink before heading into the loop here. And McGlade trying to do his best. And there is Chris Butcher making it a 4-way scrap. Might be even more with that because Luke Mitchell's right with them too. Scott Sovic, Ben Willis, Scott Mitchell and Callum Wilson. That's second to 10th, and they're going 3 wide into Stowe corner. McGlade up the inside of Davis. Will he get P3? He does for the moment.
It's developing one way, then the other very quickly here. Davis? No, he's dove down the inside of McGlade, though, with Butcher right there as well. Davis isn't scared of chucking that car down the inside of somebody. He needs to give McGlade room on the inside. Look at Butcher. Beautiful cutback from him down the inside of the Zanshow Simsport Focus. And the 2 THR cars absolutely mug him there. McGlade won't be happy about the little bump on the exit, but Butcher just ran a little bit wide. Luke Mitchell with the best seat in the house right now for this. Front row seat indeed. Through turn 1 they go. And look at that. Before you know it, Davis has got quite the gap as well now. Butcher's going to defend this and help his teammate out. Mitchell sends it up the inside. That's 3 Astras that have gone past McGlade in just a couple of corners, and Luke Mitchell completes the move nicely. McGlade now under pressure from a Subaru behind him.
Yep, Scott Sovic, and then the floodgates could unfortunately open depending on what happens here. So you've got Sovic, Ben Willis, you've got Luke, you've also got Scott Mitchell, Callum Wilson. Matthew Churgwin is now in that mix as well, and it looks like he's got past Wilson, and he's also trying to get past Mitchell, and he looks like he's got through and got the job done in the BMW. So Matthew Churgwin, after a disastrous race 2 where he was on the unwilling reciprocation of a turnaround courtesy of Scott Sovic, who actually did apologise to him post-race, now really getting the bit between his teeth, and he is charging. That puts him up into 9th place, whereas Luke Mitchell closing in on Chris Butcher. And you can just see the gap starting to expand here between Morby and Davis. Butcher now under the kibosh as it's Astra v Astra. McGlade, Sovic, Willis, Mitchell, Wilson and Churgwin still rounding out the top 11. Jordan Hearn, if things keep on developing like they are, Chaz, could well and truly be within a shout of a top 10 finish.
Yeah, definitely. Any one of them could do this at this point. It just depends on any mistakes that are made, because as soon as one of these drivers puts a foot wrong now, they're going to instantly be under attack. That's if they're not already, to be fair. Willis all over the back of Sovic. Mitchell all over the back of Willis. So they need to be oh so careful now, but it seems to have calmed down for just a moment. But that's Chaz jinxing it for you, everybody. We've got Subaru, BMW and Vauxhall all very close together, although big smack of curb there for Mitchell, and he loses out for just a couple of corners back onto the straight once again, and there is a penalty for him now. So maybe one too many bits of abuse for the track limits there, I'm afraid. And to be honest, the penalties around here, you wouldn't expect the drivers with such a wide circuit to get so many track limits warnings, but in all honesty, as one of the BMWs flies down the inside there, bit of BMW on BMW action there for a moment. Just trying to see who that was. I think that was Churgwin on Wilson, was it not?
Yeah, that would be the case because Churgwin was down in 11th position. But yeah, like you say, with the sort of like the battling that we've had, where we've had 3 wide going into Stowe, where we had Davis being insided by Butcher, and then McGlade making it 3 abreast a few laps ago. You can just see how hard these drivers are pushing. It's ultra competitive in TCUK. You know that from that, as there is Scott Mitchell, who's just dived into the pit lane to serve his penalty. So that will drop him from what is 8th position. Oh, Scott Sovic gets a little bit of a rude awakening there.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it.
or just a simple yeet. I think is probably the other term we could use there as well.
it was one or the other. It was either a rude awakening or he was put to bed, to be honest. It was certainly not helpful to him either way. Ben Willis now in front. And again, it's very, very feisty racing. It really is. But yeah, some of them are just pushing their luck a little bit, I think, sometimes. We're back on board with Davis right now, looking at the back of Phil Morby's Ford Focus. Down the hanger straight. Looks like Morby's actually got the legs on him down here for quite a moment. It doesn't seem like the slipstream's doing much for Davis there.
No, and in terms of the lap times, Toby Davis last time around was actually the best part of nearly 0.3 of a second quicker than Phil Morby. So the Davis is starting to reactivate those tyres. Now, Toby Davis is actually on the primes. Phil Morby, however, is also on the same compound of tyres. So I just think, when you've already had 36 laps of racing and you're 14 laps into another 18-week race. Now, the tiredness, it doesn't matter who you are. And plus also, these races are pretty closely compacted together here, Chaz. So the physical and mental exertion is going to be, you know, a toll on the body. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are Toby Davis, as Morby runs a little bit wide. That's opening the door for Davis. There's a little bit of a door check there, but manages to get a little bit of a switchback. But then Chris Butcher is on quicker than a dose of salts. So second position could, depending on how things rock up. But look at the lead that Dan Kell's got. 11 seconds at the moment as we're on lap number 14 out of 18. And Davis and Butcher trying to tag team Morby into submission here. But Davis trying to force that door open. Morby gets cuts off the nose of the Vauxhall Astra ever so slightly. But then Butcher is trying to find his way past. And it's sort of like one good foot deserves the other. A bit like when you said in, I think it was the first race, saying Toby Davis saying, right, unleash me, let me see what I can do. Chris Butcher's probably thinking exactly the same thing right now here in race 3.
Yeah, definitely. You know, if you've got your teammate coming up behind you and you've been trying to get ahead of somebody for a while, you may as well just put a few fresh legs out in front of you and just say, go on then, you try it, see if there's just a different approach here that will work. Because, as you know, whether drivers are quicker than one another or whether they've got different ways of doing things, on track, it all depends on who you're up against. Some drivers have a style that works against others, some drivers just don't. They clash and sometimes we have incidents. Other than that, you have drivers that just can't get past people. I'm way too passive on track, to be honest, and I defend all right, but it doesn't always save me. But at this moment in time, neither of these THR cars can get past Phil Morby. He's doing a great job at making that very garish Ford Focus very wide indeed. But I think Toby Davis is going to be the key that fits the lock and opens the door in a minute. And Butcher is going to follow him through. We saw a fantastic example of their teamwork earlier against Lewis McGlade in these final couple of corners, as Davis looks very late up the inside. He's so aggressive with that. You could argue that it works, but he needs to really be careful before he sends somebody off the circuit here. But great battling, though, while Kell is 11.5 seconds up the road.
And Kell looks to be the third different driver in as many races to secure 2 race victories this season so far. So Kell actually won race 2 at Brands Hatch as Toby Davis locks up the brakes a little bit there. It was a little bit squirrely from the back end under braking. That nearly opened the door for Chris Butcher to get through. And now Toby Davis having to defend against his teammate right up behind them. Lewis McGlade, Luke Mitchell, Dan Hyde's got a penalty. I think also Slattery in 14th position in the Honda, the Andrew Jordan tribute band. Unfortunately, has also got a penalty. But look at the train here. That is being rounded out by Matthew Churgwin, I believe, with Callum Wilson not too far adrift in 10th position. But we are effectively on this plus an additional lap still to go to conclude the race evening here at the VMO TCUK Championship for round 3 out of 10 here at Silverstone International. But Dan Kell now goes on to the 18th and final lap, and with a humongous lead in terms of superlatives here, Chaz. 11 seconds ahead of this gaggle that are still battling away, and anyone could pick up second by the end of it.
Yeah, that's it. Again, similar to what we had before. All it takes is one mistake and the order in that train will change completely. Davis now really onto the back of Morby. Doesn't quite get it done there. He's going to hope to get a good run onto the hanger straight. Butcher's got a better run than him, though. They're going to have to work together in the slipstream as they go down there. But Dan Kell into the last few corners, Alex. Well, I would have put money on him at the beginning, to be fair, without bias. But without the ballast and with that reverse grid, he's done another outstanding job tonight.
Yeah, so into Vale and then into Club for the final time comes Dan Kell. It's 3 from 3. But what's more important, the 3 drivers that have won tonight, Dan Kell, Ryan Elliott and Chris Butcher, have all taken 2 victories this season. But the squabble for second continues. Davis looking up the inside through the final corner, tags Morby. That's going to give Butcher an opportunity to run to the line. Who is going to get second? It's Morby ahead of Butcher by thousandths of a second. Davis drops down to 4th. Down to 4th. McGlade rounds out the top 5. Luke Mitchell, I mean, like literally between 2nd through to 8th place here, Chaz. The gaps between drivers was no higher than half a second at best.
Yeah, that was really impressive racing. That great stuff. I'm glad to not see the position change across the line there, really, with the contact. It would have been a shame for Morby to lose it due to a dive at the last corner, which took him off the road, but he continues to hold second place. Butcher gets another podium, and Davis ends up fourth, McGlade in fifth. But what a great drive that was by Dan Kell. Mitchell going well as well in sixth place. But wow, another really entertaining race there to end our evening, and it's been a lot of fun covering this because, once again, as I said before, similar to the Real World British Touring Car Championship, you get a massive variety of race winners. You never know how one of these races is going to end up. You get similar drivers at the top end of the order, granted, but you never know who's going to win a race. This is great stuff.
Indeed. Right, well, as you can see, there are the results from race 3. And what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some race winners from tonight. Let's bring in our final race winner. He's done 2 this season so far. First of all, round 2 at Brands Hatch. Now, round 3 at Silverstone International. Let's bring in Zancho Simsport's Dan Kell. Well, Dan, good evening. Firstly, I think you were probably a bit surprised that you managed to get the draw out of the hat, courtesy of Matt Richards, for Grid 3 pole position. But you managed to get the better of the likes of Phil Morby and Toby Davis and stride away to win by the best part 11 seconds. 2 race wins this season. How are you feeling?
I can't really believe it, to be honest. It's just like today I only really started practicing about an hour or 2 before the race. I'm on a completely different setup to what I normally run. I'm over at uni, so I'm on a G29 pedals on desk, where normally I'm on DD1 and Fanatec pedals, so completely different. And my pace in comparison to what it's been this year was absolutely shocking today. So to even, I was happy to, if I'd even got a top 10, which I didn't in race 1 or 2, so to get a win, I can't believe it.
And obviously coming into this, you know, we had 6 different winners from 6 different races. We had yourself, we had Lewis McGlade, Ben Willis, Chris Butcher, Ryan Elliott and Scott Mitchell. And now yourself, Ryan and Chris all have 2 wins apiece. You've each done a really good job this evening. It's really opened the championship up going into Thruxton in a couple of weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the quality on the grid this year is very strong. Like any one of like 15, 20 drivers can probably win a race or get a podium. It's really got your work cut out, and you've really got to fight for them, even just little scraps of points, just for like the P8, P9, P10. Just such a tough grid, and the champion will definitely be a worthy one.
Well, Dan, congratulations on your race 3 victory tonight, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks at the virtual recreation of Thruxton.
Thank you. Cheers.
Bye, Dan.
You just had to do that, didn't you, Chaz?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm a 27-year-old child right here.
Yeah, mate. That makes 2 of us, me being 43. There we go. I've just outed my age there. But I'll hand this one over to you. Let's bring in race 1 winner, Ryan Elliott.
Well, here he is then. Ryan Elliott. Well, that was a lively night's racing. Not quite how you wanted it to end in that 3rd race there, mate, but a win to get things underway. Probably the best way you could start it. What do you reckon?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. 8 laps practice coming into it. It's sort of just a fun series for me, this one. So to, have a win the second, I can't complain too much. Race 3 sort of got taken out by a really strange crash that was nothing to do with me, and then, I don't know, people trying to race me for 18th, like it's the title fight, but I'm not fussed. They have every right to race me. I just wish they maybe thought a little bit before and could have probably gone forward, definitely gone forward, but oh well. I had a good night racing. It was good fun. That's all it's about.
Well, that's the thing, it's a very, very fun championship to race in. Obviously, I'll be back on track with you guys in 2 weeks' time at Thruxton. But yeah, the Civic as well. I mean, it's a good car to chuck about. You can really give it a bit of abuse, and it doesn't really sort of kick your teeth in too much. But you do have to be careful, obviously, in front-wheel drive cars on those tyres. Speaking of them, what was the option tyre like for you tonight? Did you find it to be much of a hindrance while you were on it?
Personally, I found it horrific. Race 1 was like really good on the prime. Like, I managed my percentage really well, and it felt, you know, like really consistent all the way through. But the option in race 2 for me, like, even though my percentage wasn't really that bad compared to like my teammate Chris, he was 20% lower than me, but doing the same sort of pace as me. I just couldn't make it work. But yeah, at least going into Thruxton, we'll all be on the hard tyre every race, so no excuses for that one.
I was going to joke that Shepherd was 20% less on his tyres because he took the sidewalls off with how many people he ran into, but to be fair, it was just argy-bargy all the way through the field. I mean, we're looking at some of it now, you know, a bit of contact in the first couple of corners with you and Scott Mitchell. It's just, even though it's a wide circuit, you know, these cars and a field this competitive just brings that out in people. As mentioned by yourself, though, we go to Thruxton in 2 weeks' time. How are you feeling about that? Is it a circuit you enjoy?
Mixed opinions. I think I enjoy driving the circuit, but the final chicane just brings quite a lot of track limit drama into it. Yeah, I've raced series in the past where people have ended up full on DQs from cutting that chicane. I think me included. I just don't like. I like the track and I like racing on it, but I don't like the controversy that comes with it. But oh well, it'll be good fun. No matter what, it's touring car racing at the end of the day. It's the best form of motorsport.
It really is, mate. I'm with you on that one. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ryan. And well, hopefully we'll see you get another one of those wins in 2 weeks' time. And hopefully you won't be too far ahead of me. I'll see you out there, I hope, or at least I'll see you on the leaderboard somewhere.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Cheers, nice one. Great stuff there, Ryan Elliott. Like I say though, you know, it's tough when you're. And not to sort of blow too much smoke up his backside, but it's quite often at the front of a field is Ryan Elliott with the pace that he's got. But you know, with the sort of opinion on other guys racing him further down the order there, you do get a bit of that. You know, a lot of the time in sim racing and real world motorsport, if you're a driver that's at the top of your game and you're always really quick, you get further down the order, maybe drivers not with the same sort of awareness and pace as yourself, it can get a bit messy when you're used to driving with the people at the front and not the people at the back. So I understand his frustrations on that one, and it's a shame to see him get a DNF in that final race. But top lad all round, to be fair, Ryan Elliott, and of course very quick.
Yeah, I completely understand where he's coming from, because with my karting commentary background, you know, you do sometimes see that happen when I speak to people off track. It's sort of like, yeah, kind of not what I really wanted to happen. But we're now going to speak to the man who I think, by my prediction, still leads the championship standings heading into Thruxton in a couple of weeks' time, the reigning and defending champion, THR's Chris Butcher. Chris, good evening, buddy. Congratulations, firstly, on another victory. Yourself, Ryan, and Dan are both on 2 wins apiece this season. Things are really ramping up here in season 2, aren't they?
They are. It was pretty mental, wasn't it? But you know, that race 3 was brilliant fun, and it's good to see you know, different people winning races and being up there and getting podiums. And you know, the field was so tight here, so it was a great evening's racing.
Now, we had a conversation, didn't we, a couple of weeks ago after Brands Hatch, that you said it was going to be a bit of a tall order. You know, 7th in the first race, you know, picking up a victory in race 2, and still giving your THR stablemate, Mr. Toby Davis, and also Mr. Phil Morby, a bit of a wake-up call in that battle for second in the dying moments. It really seemed like things were turning a corner in race 3, but you know, race 1, you were in the trenches, as was Toby, quite a bit, weren't you guys?
Yeah, I mean, the weight was really hard to carry on the medium tyre, and I took a bit of damage through battling with Shepherd. You know, it was a bit rough, but it was just one of those things, and I was just trying too hard to catch up, basically, and it was all on my own. And I gave myself the the drive-through. So it should have been a little bit better in race 1, but that probably set me up for the race 2 win. So silver linings and all that, I suppose. But yeah, I put a lot of laps in. All my testing's been done with success ballast, so we had a decent idea of how the car's going to handle with the weight on, and worked really hard on tyre wear, because that was a bit of a Achilles heel at Brands Hatch, and all that seems to have paid off. So yeah, pretty decent result.
Now we go into Thruxton in a couple of weeks. Again, with the current situation, you're going to be heavily laden with ballast once again. How are your thoughts going into Thruxton? It's a different circuit altogether, isn't it?
It is, yeah. If I remember rightly, the tyre strategy elements taken out of play. We're all on the same tyres for all 3 races, so it's just going to be a case of sort of staying out of trouble in race 1, qualifying as well as I can, and maybe trying to set up for a decent result in race 2.
Well, Chris, well done tonight. Provisionally keeping your championship lead. All the very best of luck for Thruxton in a couple of weeks.
Thanks very much, Alex.
Well, good to hear from our 3 race winners here as the Reverse Touring Car UK Championship gets back underway with its 3rd and final race of the evening here at Silverstone. Always epic. It's always at high revs. No one seems to get a lick over 50 on the speedo. But Chaz, firstly, thank you very much for jumping in the commentary box alongside me, mate. It's been a pleasure. 3 cracking races here at Silverstone, weren't they?
Yeah, that was really, really good fun. Great to be up here in the commentary box for that and see all of the action unfolding live. Usually I just catch these things and watch them back and say, oh, look, there's me in 49th place. But in all honesty, that was really, really good fun. A lot of argy-bargy tonight. Some drivers will look at that and maybe hear my comments and think, God, this Chaz guy's harsh. I'm glad he's not commentating again. But at the same time, as Ryan Elliott said, it's touring car racing. You're going to get a bit of that. And it's always entertaining to have. And thank you very much, boys, for having me. It's been great.
Well, that's it from us here at the home of British Motorsport, the virtual recreation of the Silverstone International Circuit for round 3 out of 10, the 2021 Virtual Motorsport Online Touring Car UK Championship. A big thank you for Chaz stepping in, deciding to give up driving duties tonight, but to join me in the virtual commentary box. We'll be looking forward to having Phil Kinch back in a couple of weeks. But that's it from us here on VMO. Join us in a couple of weeks where we head to Hampshire as Thruxton hosts rounds 4. Thanks for watching.